So after we sold our last company to Databricks about 18 months ago, we took some time off and thought through what was next. And a buddy of mine, which is doing some of the video here, we thought, startups suffer, and it's so hard being a founder. I know it. I've raised money, and I've helped companies raise money, and there's nothing worse as a founder to go through that process. So our goal is to help give a lot of free content away, seeing around corners, have a throwback Thursday. Keith interviews everyone from Mark Cuban to Heidi Rosen to, like, pick a name, Steve Blank of the Lean Startup. So our whole goal is to help educate the masses, and we're not like a YC or a plug and play. We're not looking to take a piece of your company, but truly drive through these ecosystems that you're hearing about. So I've been blessed to build some of the biggest ecosystems we've ever seen in this world. I'm going to talk about them because we just are coming off. What happened in San Francisco this week? Does anybody know? Besides it being the safest week in the city, let's be clear about that. Because there was more police than any other time. Dreamforce, that's correct. So as we go through this, I have to ask all of you, are you bleeding edge or leading edge? So let's get a show of hands. Bleeding edge, raise your hand. All right, who's on the leading edge? All right, I'm probably far right of you as it relates to that. And so I've been at this 37 years, and I kind of feel like Forrest Gump. And I say that because I'm very fortunate the NVIDIA guy came before us. Bill Most bought his company. So when I think about those Forrest Gump moments, we'll walk through those. And in those 37 years, started back in the mainframe days. And you get to see how the ecosystem of the industry really started. Those chips had friends. They were called math coprocessors because they couldn't go fast enough. That's an ecosystem play. You get to see that they actually needed to live into a system that went to a retailer, that sold it to a consumer, that went to a bar to get some service. That's an ecosystem play. And I wanted to talk a lot about the cities, hoping something would be here, because it feels that for the first time, people going in city positions are like the people we saw up here. They can spell technology. They can spell AI. And it's not fair to us as constituents, especially being in Silicon Valley, to have the people that represent us not knowledgeable for the things that we needed to do. So on this Forrest Gump journey, what else did I get to see? Blessed to do things around the world in lots of cities, ranging from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore to countries and cities down all the way to Africa, which we'll be talking a little bit about now. And the importance of that is, as you see this movement, it happens with humans. And yeah, Gen AI probably won't replace humans, but they're going to augment us, hopefully make us some superhuman powers. And as we go through those journeys, how many people have been on how many people listen to something on their computer today? All right, so half of you, great. I was at the company that created sound for the PC, so you wouldn't be listening to anything if we didn't do that. And that was the company that started really growing. And we're the fastest growing company for the first half of the 90s, after two smaller companies, Intel and Microsoft. So you could imagine what that would have been like inside that tornado or crossing that chasm. And that was the place where we really did almost buy NVIDIA and bought 3DFX, and so maybe the world would be different. And yeah, I see you smile. But it wasn't. Back then, even Jensen was the man that he was today, and came to the meeting and said, "You're not buying me. I came to see what you would look like when I buy you," and left the meeting early. And the rest is true story. The rest is kind of history. We bought 3DFX and then gave the iPod to Apple and sort of went away and passed away. But as we go through that, I was fortunate enough leaving there and going into the world of enterprise applications, and got to see how banks and telcos build it, and that let me see what those ecosystems look like and how we can build them. And eventually, I found myself at Salesforce, where I got to build the biggest ecosystem our industry has seen. It's approaching $1 trillion, and it's insular. It's not a marketplace. And what we did was something so special and so unique, because Dreamforce can't be replicated. Trust me, I tried it at companies like Zoom. Like, pick a company that wanted to have that type of infrastructure, and I talked to them in the last 15 years. And it was special because we had a leader like Mark that made it happen. That's the problem. You'll hear me talk about people, team, culture, execution. And those are the things that really, really matter. But what I got coming here to be excited about, because we can keep going through, we're going to touch a little bit about my journey and how those are touching where those intersections with cities are. And it was really profound to hear that, because I didn't know we would talk about power. Power is really important. And I happened to spend some time in the smart grid, and our whole goal, we became a global standard selling to utilities, so you'd never have to build a utility again. Recently sold a vertical power plant to Schneider Electric 2 years ago now, so you would never have to do that. And it was great to hear what's happening in Silicon Valley around power. Because I have to be honest, Silicon Valley Power is probably one of the more innovative, yet small, and that's why your prices are so cheap if you're in that Santa Clara County. On your energy. And they had a very, very innovative CIO, which is rare for utility. And he wanted to be like the guy in Austin, which is out there, as you can imagine. And so you sort of saw, like we saw up here, a competition about who could have the best smart grid. Turned out it was in Houston, Texas. IBM got behind it. And over 275 cities from around the world in 1 year came to take a look at it. And that's the challenge I wanted to talk to. I'm going to follow up. We need a center of excellence in Silicon Valley for Silicon Valleys and cities. We don't need 6 of these different things. We don't need everyone doing it. I felt like we were watching a modern day version of Gangs of New York. This is my corner. This is my corner. When all those corners are really being taken out, no one's winning. So unless we coalesce and create what we have the opportunity, I mean, my comments on the GovAI, Matt is on to something. If he strikes that as like a forest fire to go, it will burn forever, and we can take over the world in a very powerful way, meaning ethical AI, responsible AI. As we went along the smart grid, we really started changing the way in which people engaged with electricity, which was blown away by that you could actually affect people. We all heard about Nest, right? Talk about affecting your electricity user patterns. But the energy consumption for us to build the next wave, is it hard to believe we're building data centers again? Who remembers AboveNet in San Jose, which Matt was here talking, right? The original data centers were actually along the Main West, so they were all in San Jose when they came out. They weren't the places where cheap power is, where they're all today, because that's where Google has to build them up in Oregon or along lakes, and the water helps keep it cool. So it was very interesting to hear what we're going to do about power, because it doesn't matter the people, it doesn't matter the compute, it doesn't matter what chips we build. If we can't get power to people to do the work, we're going to have a problem. And energy is a real issue, as we see around the world, from the prices of gasoline to what we're doing. So this is going to be an interesting place. But I learned then we went inside of buildings, because if you confect what happens outside with the electricity, there's way more. And so I joined a company where we really cared about gathering sensors in ceilings. If you're in Silicon Valley, I'm going to guess 99% of the buildings you go into, including the NVIDIA building, go in that. It's a great story how we won that building. And they realized that the best of the best in these sensors to gather one thing we're going to talk about next, which I believe this Center of Excellence for Cities could take advantage of. And that's how the space is used, what to do with that data. Did people come to work? Should I move the coffee? Like, it's unbelievable. Because, by the way, property, largest asset class in the world. Think about that. I'm a company, got to have property, maybe not tomorrow. Then you got people and you got products. So if you can start affecting those things, and we did, we became a global standard and sold that company to the prior one we sold to Siemens. You start realizing infrastructure is heavy and big lifting, and startups really can't take the whole distance that goes through that. And then the next one we started realizing was, this is 10 years in the making. It's got an energy play that didn't start out to it, but transportation. We heard transportation is an issue with cities today. So we focused on what we thought was the most precious thing to transport. Who wants to take a guess what that is? Your children, right. What is the #1 transit in America today? School bus system. More kids get moved than taxis, airplanes, trains combined, and taxis. Think about that. No seatbelts, don't know where they are, and you have no clue what that is. So we reimagined if we were to do this and how we could get funding from the government by making these electric buses and electrifying these cities, having vehicle to grid, and you have a brownout, like in park a bus next to a hospital. And guess what? This is an asset can use 24/7, 365. It's unbelievable. The good news? We're helping cities. We're doing 10-year, $100 million contracts. So talk about real infrastructure plays, of which half that money is being what I call coupon clipped by the federal government that actually wants to do that. By the way, those sensors in ceilings, you know, we talk a lot about, well, I like venture money, it's dilutive and it's needed and it's necessary. There's 99 ways to get the money you don't know about because you haven't done what you've done before. So in that sensor company, I got to roll out 1 billion square feet in less than 2 years by attacking something called compliance. Because you can't build a building without daylight harvesting. Everyone needs to have a sensor. Why not put my sensor, get it in cheap, learn from the creative days. $16 sensor gives me $1 million worth of data. So what we really wanted was the data. We're going to get to that play. The data that we're getting off the buses, not just from your students and your children, transportation, traffic patterns, and what's going on. And so what it really, really made me realize, if the cities want to be successful, that PPP you heard about, I don't know who the other P is going to be, has to have an ecosystem that focuses on city data. Imagine, if I ran a city, I'd never raise taxes, I'm not running for office. I thought about this, I'm a fisherman. I gotta pay the state for a fishing license to fish in the ocean that they don't own. The hell's up with that? Well, that's no different than they think that's like the data. So those fish are like data, so why don't you license that to me? So as I started thinking through, well, what would we do if we really wanted to exploit this in a positive way? And thank God AI came along, because now I can actually look at that data. You heard these people, 500 emails, 700, they can't put the data, they're never going to achieve it, it's just going to get buried. So I then started thinking, what's the most important data to me? Because again, I hate to say this, I'm here to tell you about what excites me, not you. The good news is the things that excite me you've all used. Who's ever been in an Uber? You got that text? Yes, thank you very much. So I think the things that excite me, I try to figure out how we bring them to you. Uber's not the great example. Lots of cities use texting. That company I'm referring to is Twilio. I was fortunate enough to be there and help them. But with this, what we're seeing in the value of data in the AI world, a few things that are exciting me. Who wants to think about this again? So when I was growing up, we had fire drills. We all had them, right? I lived in Pennsylvania. We had something called the 3 Mile Island Alert, so we had a different kind of drill. I could not imagine today going through an active shooter drill. Could you? The good news is we stop. We choose not to. It's like a seatbelt wall. You can prevent accidents. And so I went searching. If we did that, what's out there? Well, we have no affiliation with these companies. And I found this San Jose, ex-police officer, chief of police, SWAT leader. And they got a group of people together, and they started creating this sensor that looks like a regular fire alarm. Because you know why? 90% of the school violence comes from a boy who goes to the bathroom to get his stuff ready to come out and do his business, what he doesn't should be doing. This is in the bathroom, doesn't know who the boy is, but the sensor for the eye knows motions. And with those motions, it could be a gun being pulled, being put together, and immediately can lock him in the bathroom. So at least you have containment now, not like we've seen in the debacles that have happened. So I'm really, and by the way, it's an unfunded startup for you VCs here looking to find out what's next, because these are the technologies that aren't only going to make a difference for your children, but on the impact in the world that we want AI to make in a positive way that we heard. It's not about building data centers to do the Gen AI to make them have a better job. How do we give people better lives? And so I started thinking, if we had better lives and I lived in a city, what would I really want to know about that? And so I said, I'd want to know everything about the city. So I went and found, coincidentally, again, a lot of things I believe in fate, intersections. What if we could see what happened in the city every day? How would you do that, Bobby? Drones, Google Earth, bring cameras? No, simple trash trucks. Every day they pick up trash. We throw a camera with incredible AI on there, and I could tell you if it's graffiti, I could tell you what it is, potholes, manholes, I could tell you the home's foundation's gone. And we started rolling this out. This is innovative. See, this is real. This is not like some joke stuff. This isn't Atlanta. And I wish the mayors were here, because what I was blown away by, more than half their customers happen to be African-American mayors. So it might tell me who really cares about the city. The people that live in the cities they want to care about. And so with that, what I'd really like to talk about is how are you going to innovate? What's going to be your contribution? And how can we create an ecosystem that helps you, whether you're a city worker, city official, which is essentially what I was hoping to deliver this to, but it sounds like we got a lot of entrepreneurs that are left here and some venture folks looking where do I put my money to get good work. And so I'd like to open this up for some Q&A section because I could talk for hours. And you got Jeremiah after me, so he's going to be the smart one. Yes, go ahead, Alex.
I think the gun AI company just got funded.
Oh, look at that. I just talked to Greg yesterday, so that's great news. Hide your checkbooks again, then, I guess is what he's saying. Yes, Mike.
Talk to us more about the city data, what that is.
Yeah, so anyone here in healthcare? City data. What's city data? There is no standard. The best part about city data, though, is there's this thing called code compliance. There's already a baseline written. You don't have to make it up. Guess what? It's a standard across America, so everything's being measured the same. So in healthcare, the last couple of years, enabled by AI, we've had the most incredible breakthroughs through something called RWD. What's that mean? What's the acronym stand for? Real world data. For the first friggin' time, we're actually doing patient healthcare analysis using real world data, not fake synthetic data, how we cure cancer, how we do that, because we have the power to actually get real data, apply it across mass systems, and have answers that will get us the conclusions quickly, accurately, and for real. I'd like to create a standard for citywide data that starts having that same moniker, because we can base it upon city compliance and code. Everyone follows those same things. And then through a Gov AI alliance, we can have response. I'm serious. Responsible AI right on top of it. By the way, the reason we rolled those sensors out, we created the IoT alliance that everyone from Philips to Signify participated. We had the biggest because Cisco was in it. And guess what we did? We created a moat through a 1/4-inch knockout, became the standard with all those people helping us. Again, that ecosystem play. It's much bigger than most people think, and it's way more powerful when you get the one-to-one because it gives you 100,000x. You know why? Your ecosystem typically is an off-balance sheet resource. You guys all know what that means? Pay for performance, no money out of my pocket, you're not on my payroll. Perform, get paid. Right? Yes, it's the best way to do it. So, questions, let's fire up. Yes, sir. Sai, you did a good job.
This is awesome, and I'm sure we should get a clip of this out of these mayors and.
100%. I told Ryan to come speak to him. I want to talk to him about. We have a look back and a look ahead podcast that we promote and do. And again, I just happen to be Forrest Gump, right place, right time. I'm not special.
This is perfect. In fact, the city of San Jose.
I've met with them. I know that. I was in their office. I talked to them about that. They got that grant because I took this company in to see them for that reason. So 100% on it.
So what I'm curious is, back with the ecosystem, right? When you put the constituent at the center of conversation, jurisdictions go away, right? Because you now figure out how to serve the human needs Monday through Friday, morning through night, and thereafter. So
24/7.
24/7. Is there a possibility you see to build a utility that other cities can plug into and subscribe to, rather than go reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
And if there were a city that you might want to start experimenting or piloting that, what city might that be, and how could we?
That's a great question. I'd like to have a follow-up, and I can matrix you with you the cities that we see doing certain things, and range like both domestically and globally, and we could see their best practices. But that's what the Center of Excellence would do. It would be vendor agnostic, no one in particular. Given that all these people shouted the names of the very wealthy billion-dollar companies, I'd like for one of them to donate some space for 5 years to us for free. I heard those names they mentioned. They got nothing but a big balance sheet. If they care about the cities that they're actually giving the money to, we should figure that out. And then I would start asking, what's the roles of those companies? Does Google play a role? Do you want to come help us? And they take sponsorship dollars for you all to run it, not us. And therefore we control experiments, right? So someone asked why COE. So the AppExchange was built in San Mateo, not San Francisco. I got a big building bought for me. That was the Siebel building. Mark wanted to put Tom out of misery. And it's a true story. That's why I got that building. And I had 1,000 startups grow under that in 2 years. And if you think about that, no one else had that. Not YC, not Plug and Play, not anyone, because we got you up and running fast. And those are the accelerator, what do you want to call it? But those are the things that really handhold you. Let me take you there. And then let me show you the way. And our whole goal was, you got asked this question actually. You did a post on the Post Dreamforce. We had a weekend away with this guy, Jeffrey Moore. You know, ever hear of him? Yeah. Crossing the chasm inside the tornado. And he beat the hell out of Mark on core versus context and wanted to do everything, just like everyone wants to do everything. Just own customer record. And didn't mean anything until we started showing these complete complement, extend, build by partner, and we could do the exact same thing here, starting with the human in the middle. Instead of it being a customer master, the human master, call it whatever you want to be so we can base it around it, and then design out what they go through. You could very easily start tackling it, starting with the messages coming in. Guess what? We got a collaborator here. He's the first member of the ecosystem. He's going to donate his software so that others can take advantage of it. Maybe we figure out how we package it. I see you smiling. And then we can figure out, is there a consultancy on a national basis that cares about this we could tap into so we could light up more cities than one at a time? Yes, Alex.
So
I'm with Oker Buddy, that's why I know him.
very concerning information. Very much appreciated the honesty from the lady. I think her name is Fiona, right?
Yeah.
Who was here this morning, and she pretty much admitted that the government don't want to improve things. So how are you going to solve that problem?
I think the constituents aren't going to allow the government to have a say, and they're going to put the pressure on them. First of all, I applaud. And I don't think everyone actually knows her role for driving innovation in our industry. Like the role of the California treasurer, maybe what I should say, the amount of money that they put into the innovation. So when you start thinking about that, we should have our unfair rights in our state alone. All right, see, because we put billions to work and don't get that back. It was contradictory to an article I read from the California CIO this morning, so I found it odd, to be honest with you. I'm more than happy to forward that because she wants to be treated like the enterprise. So maybe it's the same silos we see in most companies, that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand, because again, it's also maybe a little political. I could forward you that article. I said because I thought the exact same thing. Because if you're a CIO, you got to care about that stuff, regardless of what role you're in or what entity that you participate in driving. Because it's like a doctor, you sort of take that oath. Yeah, but it would be a crushing blow, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I've been so frustrated trying to figure out why things are so broken when you can see in other states it actually working. And we have so much money that we're paying in taxes, all these big companies. Why is this happening?
It's a great question, Alex. So you brought up, who knows what the budget for the state of California is on a yearly basis? Over $190 billion. Yeah, you didn't know that. I'm not a state cursing you. And where does more than 40% of that money come from that funds that fund? Your employee taxes. That's why they're very employer friendly and protect us as employers and don't let non-competes and all that stuff. They want our money. I wanted to ask you the question, how'd you leave the top 10 companies leave our state? What are we doing about that? There's no sense rubbing salt in the wound. That's not like it. You know where I'm going. We lost Chevron after 100 years. They got a good run. It was funny how it was funny how we even talked about like Tesla being here. They're all moving. It's just, but we'll take the pieces and the parts and I guess the scraps. Alex, it is badly broken, and I'm not going to say the state. It's very interesting to have what I hear the 5th to the 8th largest economy, and yet we're a debtor state, and I start going, what the hell is happening here? We're not run like a business. That's the unfortunate part, but we're the size of a corporation. It's a Fortune 5. That's the real. Most states you look at, they got like 50. Spend time in Oregon too. We got 4 million people in the state, 1 million cars. How hard is that to organize? That's like a city here. Right? What's your city having?
3 million?
Yeah. A million? Yeah. So you're 25% the size of a state in a little piece of area. The housing's been an interesting one. We have to figure out prefab housing, and it will happen in the next 2 years. I saw a startup earlier this week that's knocking out dorms. They're going to roll out 100,000 doors in the next 2 years, and that's pretty exciting. Imagine just getting all the pieces. You have to drill, no wiring, like truly Lego snap together buildings. They've been doing it in China for a long time. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to talk to you or ask a question how you would approach innovation around the water energy conundrum and the water energy nexus.
So I'd love to follow up on water. So there's the Water Institute is launching a water think tank in Alabama. I'm associated with the University of Alabama. So let's have a follow-up. And people probably don't care about water, but there's a lot going that you do. I'll follow up with you specifically. People care about water. So so there's 3 big problems in America we already know. What's the biggest problem to solve in America, by the way? Let's take a guess how smart you all are. That's not water, it's not power. Food waste. Multi-trillion-dollar problem. Food waste. We can't even feed the people, but we waste more than we could in anything else. The most inefficient process that we have. Then it would be water, then electricity. Well, we could figure the electricity out, just build more coal plants. Seriously, that's an answer. Can't do more water. 1/3 of the world's natural water is located where, though? Nope. You're in America. Great Lakes. Bingo. Smart gunner. So the Great Lakes have that. Get a cabin there if you're really worried about water. No, but there's a lot going into that. Desalination doesn't work. Singapore tried it. The sludge is radioactive. It's a super huge problem. I'd like to figure out if we can connect you with that institute. They're really firing it up this fall. And it might be a way that you could tap into how people are specifically thinking about that. And who knows, maybe they include California in some of their work. Any other questions? Well, Ryan, thank you for having